Hello, all you hardcores, you know who it is. How you doing, Julian?
Well, I'm not too bad, Russell. I've been rough all week. I'm the man who's never ill, never has a day off sick, and I've been badly all week, mate. My chest isn't great at the moment, but I'm good. I mean, had a brilliant day yesterday. I went to see my daughter down at uni. Me and my kids went. We hadn't seen her for a while, 4 weeks. Longest I've never seen any of my kids. So we got back late. So I've kind of watched the show in reverse order. And when I watched the Warrington Wood fight, we didn't know the result, but we were a little bit behind everybody else. So I've been playing catch up. But what a fabulous show Matchroom put on last night.
Yeah, yeah, it was a 10 out of 10 show, wasn't it?
It was for me what happens when you put 50-50 fights on. It's as simple as that. Blue collar champions, good, talented kids on the undercard. It was just a really, really good show. I've got a couple
Belts are just there, in my opinion. Sorry for butting in. Belts are just there for them to hide behind. Just make the fights. We don't need belts, do we?
belts are just garbage. You know what I think of it? I mean, I saw Caroline Dubois last week, who's fabulous talent, but I know you've got your own views on the IBO belt, and that's not today's conversation, but you're forcing a championship on a fighter via that IBO belt, and it's just meaningless. And what we got last night was an absolute brilliant show and a brilliant main event. I've had two or three fights I've not seen. So if there's a couple of fights I've not seen what are great as well, I'm like, wow, I'm in for a treat when I watch the rest of it tonight. But what I did see, and certainly there's a brilliantly talented fighter we can talk about at the end if you want in Junaid Boston, who I've met and I've seen box as an amateur. He might be one to talk about at the end, but I guess we've got some big fights on the show that you want to talk about.
Yeah. Eddie's show, fantastic. We'll skip first four fights. We'll start with Terry Harper, Braekhus one. Braekhus, 42-year-old, inactive, against Terry Harper, who's obviously a lot younger, isn't she, in her 20s?
Yeah.
Mid-20s, is she?
She's 25, 26, maybe. She's young. Yeah.
What do you think to fight?
Well, I'm obviously on a different planet to everybody else, whereas scoring's concerned. I like to think I can score a fight. I like to think I know what judges are looking for. There's always I have to try and not be pompous, Jules. There's always a misunderstanding between sometimes punches landed and the punches landed in the judge's head that resonate. So what I mean by that is, so I think on the punch stats, Terry Harper outlanded Braekhus, certainly in the first few rounds I was watching. But when I watched the first few rounds, I thought hardly anything to pick between them. And I thought Braekhus was winning the majority of the first few rounds. And of course, she won the last couple. So I'm one of the probably only people who thought Braekhus won the fight. So before anybody says you don't know what you're talking about, let me explain. And let me also say that you know Steffi Bull, but I've met Steffi several times. So this for me is not an issue with Steffi or anybody else on Matchroom because I've met Steffi and I like him. So it's as simple as that. You and I might have a different opinion on that. But when it comes to fights, I'm always objective and I'm always consistent. Like the main event, I have a history with Josh and I have a history with Sean, but I'll always be consistent and fair when it comes to it. Now, Terry Harper, for me, throws what I call the Johnny Nelson don't hit me punches. Okay. Now, it's almost a punching retreat. Now, anybody who's a boxing coach will know that you get certain fighters in the gym who fight scared. They're technically very good. By the way, I wouldn't want Johnny Nelson to hit me before anybody says anything, but they're technically very good. But before they let the shot even land full on the target, they're pulling it back. They're touching that opponent and they're already in defensive mode. They're effectively in defensive mode whilst they're throwing the shot. Now, that might sound impossible. It's really not. The call don't hit me punches. Now, judges don't respect that. They just don't respect somebody who's always he's always looking to be defensive before they even throw the shots. Now, Terry Harper seems a really lovely, well-balanced young lady. She also comes across as someone who's incredibly timid. And I think that's somebody who's got an aptitude for boxing. She's naturally athletic. She's incredibly fit, but she fights scared. She's somebody who doesn't want to be in the ring and she doesn't want to engage at any cost whatsoever. I studied body language, or I certainly did when I was younger. And you learn body language as a coach anyway. So I'm coming at it from two aspects of studying it and coming at it from an aspect of studying it as a boxing coach. She doesn't want to be in that ring. Now, that might sound harsh, it might not. So the punches that Terry Harper were landing, they were half punches. They were taps. There was nothing in them. Braekhus, for example, wasn't landing big shots herself. She's not a puncher herself, but she's at least punching the target and throwing the punch of intent. So when you look at the handbook, whether it's the green handbook of the Boxing Board of Control, or whether it's the different rules associated with boxing in Europe or in the States, you have to punch with a reasonable force. You don't have to be a knockout puncher, but you have to hit the target with a reasonable force. And it has to be an offensive move. It has to be aggression. Aggression is part of boxing. I don't ever see that from Terry Harper. You cannot win world titles. I don't think you should win any title with a don't hit me punch mentality. That's my view. It sounds harsh. You can't win world titles by tip-tapping somebody and running around the ring. So one more, and I'm going on about this, but it's something I'm massively passionate about. I'll tell you why Terry Harper is an ultra defensive, scared fighter. I shall tell you why. You know, there's three forms of defense. There's blocking, you know, the physical blocks, the parries, whatever you want. You block shots with your hands. And then there's slipping and rolling, and then there's your feet. Terry Harper's using all those three defenses when she's not even in range. She's out of range, and she's slipping and feinting and blocking and stepping out. It's almost like ultra defensive and ultra cautious before she even engages. She'll be just outside the line of engagement. And you watch her now, you go back and watch Terry Harper fight, and you see her slipping out of range. Now, you know, when you watch a really good, relaxed fighter, who's comfortable in the ring, and you watch them just out of range, they don't do anything. They don't burn nervous energy. They're not continually twitching and slipping and moving and stepping all the time. And that's what nervous fighters do. Fighters who are ultra defensive and ultra nervous, they're continually using the three primary defenses when they're not even in range. And that's like a massive sign. And then you get the wide-eyed look, don't you? You know that rabbit in the headlights when someone gets hit,
Yeah.
And they go wide-eyed. And then I'm going to give you the final piece of, I'm not telling not telling people things that they don't know. I don't want to come across as that. But then I'm going to tell you the final clue, which comes from Steffi Bull, that he knows what he's got with Terry Harper. He knows he has a fighter who's terrified of engaging, who doesn't really like physical confrontation, which might sound incredible for a two-time world champion. The final clue is whenever Terry Harper gets hit, okay, Steffi Bull shouts out, form, form, form. Now, that is what you say to a novice amateur who's not experienced being hit. You say form, because as soon as they get hit, they unravel. They physically, mentally unravel. And the first thing a boxer does, no one likes getting hit, but who's really struggles and is uncomfortable getting hit, is to lose the form. Now, Terry Harper loses her form. You watch back now. Every time she gets hit, you listen for form, form, form. Steffi Bull knows what he's got. He's a shrewd boxing guy. He knows he has a fighter who doesn't like to engage. So I've gone on, I'm running out of breath. Do you want a world champion who doesn't want to engage in combat? Do you want that, Russell?
No, you don't, do. But what should he have been saying then to like somebody who's not a novice?
Well, someone who's not a novice, you just got to, you don't say things like relax. You don't shout out relax. You don't shout out form. You step in with your shot. Let your hands go. Bully her. You know, work inside. Not,
She had height and 16-year youth on her, didn't she? and more active.
But so you got to reach on somebody, you got the height and reach and the reflexes and athletics on someone. What do? Do you touch them with a jab as you're already moving backwards at 50 miles an hour? Or do you wait, you slam them with a jab and then you step off? And then you slam them with a right hand and a left hook and then you come under and then you go back to that slam jab again. That's what you do. You can't tickle someone to win a championship. Now, anybody listening will say, well, Braekhus, she was poor. I think she was. I think she was equally as poor. But I scored the fight for Braekhus, unlike many other people, based on at least she was trying to engage. And when she was landing, whilst not heavy punches at all, she was landing, punching through the target, and there was a little bit more intent. There was no intent in Terry Harper's shots. And what I will say as well is Tony Bellew last night, from the bits of punditry that I heard, was absolutely on the money last night. Tony Bellew was spot on. And what Bellew said afterwards, when people were crying robbery and saying this is disgraceful, and Eddie Hearn was having his big speech, Bellew was like, I don't know, I thought it was difficult to score. I thought it was close. And when Bellew says, I thought it was close, when a home fighter gets beat in a world title fight, what Tony really means as well, by the way, is I thought she got beat.
We're a draw though, wasn't it? They get it a draw.
No, but yeah, but he's like, I thought she got beat. It was a draw, but of course it was a draw. But it's still, people were calling Robert around that a draw can be a bad decision.
Well, I scored it to Harper by 2 rounds, but we could be swayed by the commentary because Steffi's shouting stuff and pundits can hear everything, can't they?
The cheerleading. The way they were talking after the first 2 rounds was Harper was like 3 rounds was Harper was in cruise control and she was putting on a boxing clinic. And I want to put my hand through the TV and just grab them because it's horrendous and it's misinforming the viewers. And then what happens then is, listen, everybody likes to think they're neutral and objective, and everybody likes to think they don't get swayed. But you can sit in a commentary position and you can hear the home crowd every time that home fighter does anything remotely close to landing a punch or offensive, and you go nuts. You hear Steffi Bull going short, 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 and it all bounces around and it all resonates, and you pick up on that. But this is the difference, and this is what people don't understand on judges, Russell. Sometimes judges stink, by the way, but this is what they don't understand. Judges don't listen to that stuff. They're not influenced by that stuff. They're focused on what's going on in the ring. They're trained, most of them are trained really well, and they know what they're looking at. And I think those judges last night know what they're looking at. I thought a draw was a fair result. I thought Braekhus edged the fight based on intent. Did she technically land more punches? She might not have done. Did she land more punches for me that I remember and had more intent behind them? Absolutely. And I tell you, Terry Harper, it's going to have, even though she didn't get the loss, Steffi's got a really hard job working with Terry Harper, continually trying to pump confidence in that girl, because she doesn't have the confidence and she doesn't have that natural fire and that natural competitor's fire to be successful. And I think, can you imagine, for example, what a Caroline Dubois would do to her? Because Caroline Dubois wants to punch holes in people's head. Yeah. Never mind what
she'd be on her like a rash, wouldn't she?
Yeah, never mind what weight they are, and never mind, Harper we know is not really a light middleweight, and Dubois is going to grow through the. Caroline Dubois would terrify her. Just stood across her in the ring, she'd terrify her, mate. And she's overachieved. She's done amazing, but it was a dreadful fight. I think, was it Tony Bellew again when someone said rematch and he goes, "Oh, I don't want to see that again." I thought, go on, Tony. Tony, you're good tonight. I like you.
Bob Williams, the British ref, were 4 rounds off the pace from the other refs, 4 rounds out in a 10-round fight.
Well, you just said it there, haven't you? Bob Williams, the British ref. It's not a surprise, is it? It's not a surprise when I don't know where the other two were from, by the way, but we always know, or generally know, how the British referee is going to score in a close fight, don't we? And history continues to show that.
Yeah. All right then. Kieran Conway, Linus Adolphus.
I haven't seen it, Russell. Really sorry,
Yeah.
mate. That's one of the fights I haven't seen.
Conway won anyway
it.
by TKO.
Right.
All right, then Opie Price, Conor Coggill.
Two technically very, very gifted fighters. Hopi Price, absolute pedigree through and through. I've had the fortune to see him spar, him and his brother, over in Beeston, or was it Hunslet, when he used to take a young amateur over there called Rizzi Arslan, who was a good kid. And even then, you knew Hopi Price was a quality operator. He's not the biggest puncher in the world, but he's certainly a sharp puncher. He's got all the tools there are. I thought Coggill gave him a really good fight. It was catching him, and two quality southpaws. I generally say two southpaws make for a bad fight, but they certainly didn't. But what a great finish from Hopi Price, and that's what you look for, isn't it? When you're looking for future world champions,
Yeah,
you look at fighters who figure out difficult styles themselves and fighters who finish with an exclamation mark.
I thought he pulled it off well last night, Caldwell in him, because
Yeah,
his first southpaw he's fought since he was 16 and he got beat. So obviously he must have had a fear of southpaws. Do you know what I mean? So I thought he did well, and he come through some tough moments, very tough moments.
he did.
But I think that to them were like 5 fights that they couldn't buy that last night. What they had, Caldwell and him, the experience.
Just such a great match, wasn't it?
And great match in that. That was great match in that.
Great matching. It'd be nice to see how Dave and the Hopi Price develop. I think
he'll be judged on him, won't he, Dave Caldwell?
I think that could be Dave's real kind of like
coming
legacy.
out thing.
I think. Well, I always look for. I think it'd be his legacy, because everybody remembers when everyone remembers the big name fighters, don't they? Everyone remembers Tony Bellew, etc. But there's nothing more rewarding than bringing a kid through all the way.
Yeah.
That's the most rewarding thing. And you're looking for certain things in the development of Hopi Price that you really need to see. And he's starting to get some more physicality about him now. Dave will know that he's not fully, it's the phrase when we use man strength, but Dave will have known he's not quite ready.
He's only a kid, isn't he? 23.
Yeah, and you can see it, but he's not a developed kid, is he? Some fighters are world champion at 20. He's not a developed kid at 23 like a Teofimo Lopez was. So Dave will recognise that's going to take some time to come through. I was a late developer as an amateur, and it'll bring him along nicely. And I think the key here is not to rush this kid. Maybe let him win a belt outright or something, and keep him from 2 to 3 years away from world level. And I always say the same thing. You fight for the title when you're ready. Some kids are ready at 21. Some kids are ready at 27. It's as simple as that. He's a really good kid. Dave's got a really nice, patient, calm demeanour when he's around him. You can see that, and there seems to be a good chemistry between them. I know Hopi Price's dad does a bit of work with him as well, which is always good from a fighter's point of view if the dad's not over talking or overstepping the mark in terms of where the head coach comes through. Sometimes it helps to have the dad in camp. Sometimes it's a nightmare. And I think with Hope it probably helps because he's got that comfort there. He's certainly going to be a world level fighter. Whether he's going to be a world champion, who knows? But it was a world level fighter in the juniors, so the pedigree's there, isn't it? And I'd love to see that kid from a personal point of view, because he's a localish lad. I'm only half an hour down the road. It'd be great to see that kid go on and really make a load of money and have a great legacy in boxing. He's a nice kid. I only ever said hello to him in a couple of words, but he's a nice kid.
He's still a bit raw though, isn't
he? Yeah, look, he's one of those, because he hasn't fully got his man strength as well. He throws too many punches when he's inside and moves around a little bit too much when he's on the outside. That might sound crazy, throws too many punches inside. But when you're physically strong and you have great core strength, you can sit inside and pick your shots, whereas he just lets quite a few go, and that tells me that he hasn't quite got his man strength because he's having to stay busy. Remember, I always said this to you, that the fighter who always feels he needs to be busy is either not a big puncher or is physically not strong, so he disarms his opponent with pace and with work rate. But once his strength starts to come through, and it'll come through in the next 12 to 18 months, I think it'd be formidable. But when you want to, when you got a southpaw like Hopi Price, when you want to teach someone how to box, and, you look at a Billy Joe Saunders and you'd look at a Hopi Price and you'd say, that's how you take a half a step back and let the shot go. That's how you pivot off to your right and let the backhand go down the middle as you're gliding off. That's how you block a left hook with the right glove and counter with the right hook. That's how you block a right hook on your left glove and counter with a left uppercut. Those guys are doing some absolute textbook moves. It's brilliant to see.
Yeah, they're both skilled. That Billy's very similar to him, isn't he? Opie, isn't he?
Very similar. It's that style. It's like Travellers, like Tyson Fury. Travellers know boxing. Travellers really study boxing. So if you look at Travellers, like Tyson can switch. Obviously, Billy's a southpaw. You got Dennis McCann, who's a southpaw. They fundamentally understand the basics of boxing.
I watched Joe Joyce on pads the other night. Somebody sent me a video of it. The travelling kid who promotes bare knuckle stuff.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen him have a fight yet. He had one fight, but he didn't know it really happened. It was a draw or something. But
right.
I saw him on pads, and you know what? He's got a really nice style.
There you go.
And that's good footwork. I'm really impressed. I'd like to see him in a fight.
Well, I know a lot of travellers. I've known a lot of travellers through boxing, and I know a really well-known travelling family as well, which I won't mention. Proper boxing fans. I mean, love boxing through and through. I speak to one well-known traveller quite often, all the time, and we audio. We have a few phone calls and stuff. Absolutely loves talking to me because he soaks stuff up all the time, and we share ideas. But I'm talking when you get down to that real technical point, that technical place.
Yeah.
I'm not stereotyping. Non-travellers can love the boxing, but we know, don't we, with travellers that certainly straighteners. You can see any straightener on YouTube. They've all got boxing backgrounds. They're all ex-amateurs, and they're all very well skillful with the feet and the hands of travellers. And the Hopi Price and those guys are just. That's my thing, as you know. I love the showmanship. I love to see fighters have a fight, but the technical aspect of boxing, that's total my thing.
He must be rubbing his hands cold well, having Opie from beginnings.
I just hope, and I don't think this will happen, but what sometimes does happen is fighters have a couple of bad performances once they get to world level, and the kind of people start saying he needs a new coach, he needs a new coach, he needs a new coach, and sometimes that happens, but I hope it doesn't happen in that case. I hope that relationship stays because it looks a good one, and it's that boxer coach relationship as well. It's like I'm hoping, and I would think that what Dave would do is not pull Hopi down from top to bottom and rebuild him and take away the things that he's great at, but just fill a few gaps and polish a few things that he's not so good at, but encourage Hopi's natural style. And from the Hopi Price I saw as an amateur, he's still got 80-90% of that style, but he's got the little pro things, like I said, the blocking inside, the countering inside, that I think might push him on to the next level.
Yeah, good luck to Opie Price. Ben Davison and Matt Schuler in 7th heaven after Lee Wood, Warrington. What did you make of it?
Oh, I've got so many thoughts on this one. I've not seen much on social media, as you know. I've been out and about this morning. It was a late night last night. I've got a bit of catching up to do. But what's always interesting for me is, first of all, in terms of Ben Davison, I've always said to you, no matter what people say about him, he's a good coach. I like listening to him. And he understands the art of boxing and the science of boxing, and he's massively passionate and massively dedicated. Okay. I thought he took something away from Josh Taylor. I thought he overcoached him against Cattrall, but I'm not going to rip the guy to pieces over one performance. So Ben Davison, I think, a really good coach. I'm not going to say he's a good young coach. He's patronising, and he's already worked with elite fighters for quite some time now. So maybe we have to start dropping the young coach, like we need to start dropping the prospect tag when someone's fighting for world titles, and he's got L plates on when he's an heavyweight champion of the world. So let's start dropping that. So Ben Davison's a really good coach, but let's think about this and let's break this down from the first bell. So I watched it with Kelsey, my lad, and as soon as it started, I says, whoa, them's the wrong tactics from Lee Wood. Lee Wood, first of all, started orthodox. I think he should have started southpaw. And what Josh did was really, really clever. And Josh just started inching back, looking to raid. And Lee Wood was throwing shots straight down the middle. Now, outside of Josh Warrington's training camp and obviously his dad and the people really close to him, I'm going to claim to have seen Josh spar as much as anybody. I've seen Josh spar from a 15-year-old amateur at Lockheed's in Wanwell, all the way through when he was at the gym I was at. We were at Central together with Sykes, and as everyone knows, we're all together for 3 years, 4 years. And then I saw Josh spar when he was a world champion, when I took one of my young prospects over, Ismail Khan, about 2.5 years ago, and Josh sparred 2 6 rounds with Ismail Khan. I know Josh Warrington really, really well, and I know the tactics I would use against him if I had a fighter who had that skill set. Now, the tactics Lee Wood was using was never going to work early on. I thought, what is he doing? And why am I saying all this? Because Ben Davison now, the general consensus is twice Lee Wood has snatched the jaws of victory from the jaws of defeat. Okay, his heart, his power, his determination has snatched fights where what it looked like he was going to get beaten. The Conlon fight and the Warrington fight. Okay, so the point I'm making is in those 2 fights, the tactics were clearly wrong because he was a mile behind. He'd been dropped, he'd been hurt. Last night, his face looked mangled. So if those tactics were wrong, why are we going to start to hail Ben Davison as a tactical genius, but Sean O'Hagan, who I have a history with, and we're still friends, but not like we were, and people, I'll always be objective where Sean's concerned. So Sean and his team, for the first 6.5 rounds, they got their tactics absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on. He was out jabbing Lee Wood. He was raiding him. He was hurting him to the body. He was killing him to the body, which is what you do against a fighter who's weight weak. And Tony Bellew picked up on that. And for 6.5 rounds, Josh Warrington was absolutely a mile in front in that fight.
It was more than it, wasn't it?
So what we're going to say though, Russell, this is what I want to cover. People are going to hail Ben Davison and say, you've turned this kid's career around when the tactics were really way wrong. And we're going to now start to say, well, what Josh Warrington needs to do is needs to get rid of his coach and get rid of everybody else. When they got the tactics right, he just got caught. So I just want to talk about the hypocrisy of boxing by saying that. And by the way, when I say he got the tactics wrong, you don't catch Josh Warrington through the middle. You don't catch him with straight shots. Josh cups his hands really, really awkwardly. He's got a really unusual guard. He holds his left elbow out too far. So when you try to loop certain body shots in, you get lumps all down your forearms. Ismail found that. Ismail really struggled with certain body shots where to change things around. And Lee Wood was doing that. Stab to the body, the jab stab. Crazy. Again, getting blocked by forearms, dropping your chin down, bringing your height down on a straight line. You beat Josh Warrington by giving him angles and by coming round the side. And the irony, when he let the hands go, it was the shot, the right hook round the side that caught Josh Warrington. So what we're gonna let's just be honest, who's gonna get hailed now as the hero coach from last night? It's going to be Ben Davison, isn't it?
Besides Ben.
Is that the right thing? Are we not going to give credit to Team Warrington, to Sean O'Hagan for 6.5 rounds for putting on a masterclass when it comes to tactics? What I'm saying, I might always come across as a little bit tongue-in-cheek or controversial. We have to be consistent, Russell, in what we're saying about people. We have to be consistent. What won last night? Ben Davison's tactics, or Lee Wood's determination and punching power?
Lee Wood's determination and his heart, because he were getting mauled.
Right. So that's that. Okay. I know you're going to ask me what I think about the stoppage, aren't you?
Yeah, what did you think of it?
I thought it was stopped too early. I'll tell you why. When I watched
Saying
it,
that because you're Josh's pal?
I'm not Josh's pal. I've had issues with those guys over the years. We kind of made up about 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Spent some time over there. Josh and I were a little bit standoffish from each other. We had a real fondness for each other in the early days. Spent a lot of time with him, a lot of time helping his dad when his dad had personal issues. As you know the background.
Yeah.
I'm kind of detached from it all. I don't do that pal thing, Russell. I'm consistent. If I can tell Gary Sykes, I thought he got beat against Terry Flanagan in a prize fighter final. Most people thought he won. I can give you an objective view on Josh Warrington.
Yeah.
Josh Warrington got dropped hard. It was a heavy knockdown. Okay.
Yeah.
As soon as he hit the floor. Now watch this back and play. I want people to watch this back and play my words. As soon as he hit the floor, his eyes did that little roll. They did. He had that split second, like Fury against Wilder. The eyes rolled. He got up, and as he hit the floor, the bell went. Now, when Josh Warrington got up, Josh Warrington then turned. He turned back to his corner, and there was a bit of confusion because all his corner was stood on the ring apron. I think they knew the bell had gone. Josh knew the bell had gone. Yeah, it was bloody hurt. Of course it was. Josh knew the bell had gone, and he went back to his corner, but he saw his corner stood up, but not the stool out and not in the ring. So it's like, right. And then he realized the referee was behind him. Foggy, he turned round, and the referee counted him out. Now,
he hit 6 times, one on elbow, 5 on head, wasn't it?
The big shots, big shots. The first shot and the last shot were brilliant punches. But what I'm talking about is, won't care if people agree or not. Okay, this is 30 odd year in the game. We're talking about the top level world championship fighters now. Now, no one wants to see anyone get hurt. Now, at world level, people hit harder, they finish better, right? Lee Wood might have come out in the 7th round and wiped him out. Yep.
8th, you mean?
8th. He might have come out and wiped him out, right? Maybe. But Josh Warrington's, you've got to be, as a referee, you've got to have a history of that boxer. And that's something that Josh said this morning. Michael Alexander knows me. He knows I am tough. He knows I am durable. He knows I will come back from tough spells. Now, you've got to know the history of that. This is not when Frank Bruno, we know when Frank Bruno got hurt, it was done. Okay? So Frank Bruno got hurt several times, and then that's why Lennox Lewis, it was all over the place against Lennox. Mickey Van stopped it. Larry Holmes got dropped by Ernie Shavers, a punch that almost took his head off. But they knew he had a history of recovering from being knocked down. He had a history with Ronaldo Snipes, and he'd shown he can come back from being hurt at Larry Holmes. Okay? This is top level boxing we're talking about now. Now, you as a referee, you have to know the history of that fighter. You have to know there's a minute now of recovery. So you sit Josh down, who was dazed, who was hurt, and then you first of all, you let Sean have a look at him. And Sean might have sent him out. He might not have done. But you've got a fighter who's 6 rounds ahead. He's hurt, he's dazed. Have a look at him, stand him back up, watch his legs when he walks to that ring centre in round 8, and then get ready to see what happens. And if he's not recovered, you pull him out. Nobody wants anyone to get hurt. But what I'm saying is, these are not 4-round fights. These are not 3-round amateurs on novice shows. These are seasoned, tough professional boxers. We want them to go home safe to the wife and kids. We don't want them to get hurt. But you just said it, Russell. He got hit with 5 solid shots.
Yeah.
Probably the first time he got hit in that fight. It's not like the Lara fight where he'd been brutalized all the way from the first round and he'd taken massive shots. And I think the corner should have pulled him out. So there's my consistency. There's me being fair. The corner should have pulled him out against Lara, in my opinion, after 7-8 rounds. I'd have pulled him out after the 4th. but you at least give him the chance. What I mean, okay, I'll turn it around a little bit. Yeah, your favourite fight, we all know, is Carl Froch, right?
Yeah.
He shows a history of coming back, doesn't he?
Yeah.
You put Carl Froch in that end of the 7th round, gets dropped hard on his ass, right? Gets back up. The referee stops that fight. What are you saying then?
What if I'm Carl Froch?
No, if you're Russell and you're watching that and you're
I'm saying ref's a prick because Froch would have come back and done him.
exactly. Now Josh might have done, he might not. But Carl Froch was a brutal, brave, fit, durable warrior. Now the punch that George Groves and the knockdown that Jermaine Taylor inflicted on him, they was flush as it gets, weren't they?
Oh God, yeah.
It was sickeningly flush knockdowns, and he looked like he'd been shot.
Taylor terrorised him for the first 7 rounds.
But you look at Carl was a better fighter than Josh, of course he was. But if you look at what the parallels are between Josh and Carl, they both trade on the toughness, don't they?
Yeah.
The trade on the strength. Carl's a bigger puncher, but the trade on the strength, the toughness, the durability, and what Carl Froch and Josh Warrington are is the 12-round fighters.
Taylor and Groves are like skill-wise, they're on a different planet to Froch, weren't they?
Exactly. And Lee Wood, had he used the right tactics, which he didn't, might have been on a different planet to Josh Warrington. I just think you give him the benefit of the doubt. And I can see why the team's upset. And I'm certainly being neutral because in fact I predicted Lopez, if you remember, I predicted Lopez would beat Josh.
Did you?
I predicted Josh would beat Frampton, and I thought it was 50-50 against Lee Selby. I'm pretty consistent where it comes to Josh. If Josh was to fight Lara again, Lara did the weight right, or even at 9 stone 4, I think Lara would do the same again to Josh.
Yeah.
I think he would knock Josh out, but I'm consistent. I think Lopez would beat Josh again. I'm consistent. I don't think he was given a fair opportunity considering his CV, considering his history, and considering the first 6 rounds, what had gone on. This wasn't a one-sided beatdown where that knockdown just cemented the referee's decision. He stopped the fight at the end of the round when he'd got a minute to recover, for God's sake. I don't think that's right.
Yeah, he'll get a rematch.
He might get beaten a rematch. It's one of those things, isn't it? But
They're on short end at dough if they do, aren't they?
no, yeah, of course they are. Nobody wants, we're running out of time, Russell, but no one wants anybody to get hurt, do they?
Yeah.
We don't want people to get hurt. But what we're going to get to a stage where we always say the referee's always right. So you think about it, right? I know the clock's winding down, right? Why does a referee stop the fight? He stops the fight, okay, to protect the boxer because the boxer's unable to defend himself, doesn't he? Yeah. One of the reasons a referee stops the fight is if a boxer is unable to defend himself. Well, Josh Warrington wasn't going to get waved back into the ring centre, was he? Josh Warrington was sitting back on his stool. He had a minute. He didn't need to defend himself for a minute. And then you just make a judgment. You make a judgment because if we're going to start saying now, and people will say this in the comments, Josh could have got killed. They've got to go home to the wife and families. This is the hypocrisy of boxing. If we're going to start saying that, then let's stop every fight as soon as someone gets hit hard. Let's stop every fight after one knockdown. And if we start to stop fights after one knockdown, we're no longer going to get great fights in boxing. We're no longer going to get spectacular comebacks because we're also being so overprotective. We stop it straight away. I thought it was a bad stoppage, in my opinion.
Okie dokie. Right. Well, listen. Thanks for coming on, Julian.
Thank you, buddy. You have a great Sunday, Russell. We'll speak soon.
Take care, mate. Bye-bye.
Cheers, buddy. Thanks, mate.